I've been thinking a lot about the world we're living in right now. It's tough. And the more I look around, the more I realise that everything, our politics, our relationships, even our media, feels like it's lost its soul. It's like it's all become surface level. Nowhere is that more obvious than the way we tell our stories, in the way we make our movies, in the way we talk about men, women, pain, identity, and each other. Let's talk about a double standard that no one seems to be brave enough to address. Take Brendan Fraser and Pedro Pascal, and how they were received by the public is a brutal illustration of a broader hypocrisy in our culture. We've come to a point where a man's vulnerability is only acceptable if it fits a specific approved narrative, and this is a sign of a deep social sickness. This is a symptom of a world that values performance over authenticity, where a person's pain is only worthy of respect if it's packaged and presented in a way that's easily digestible for the masses. Brendan Fraser's story of coming back to Hollywood was a beautiful thing. A man who had been broken physically, emotionally, spiritually, was embraced by the world for his honesty and vulnerability. Beyond the well-documented sexual assault he experienced, his struggles were multifaceted. He went through a difficult and public divorce that deeply affected his personal life and his finances. He was also dealing with the physical and emotional toll of a career spent performing his own stunts, leading to multiple surgeries and chronic pain. He was a man who had been through the ringer, chewed up and spit out by the system that had no use for him once he was no longer a visible action star. All this combined to make a man who was, by his own admission, broken. He came back in a film called The Whale, and it was the perfect vehicle for his return. This wasn't just a comeback role, it was a deeply symbolic one. The film tells the story of Charlie, a reclusive, morbidly obese man trying to reconnect with his estranged daughter. He's a man who's literally drowning in his own grief, using food as a way to cope with the immense pain he feels after losing his partner.
I need to make certain that she's gonna be okay. We can't give up on her.
You already gave up on her! You gave up on her when she was 8 years old!
I wish I could have been a part of her life, Mary. A part of both of your lives.
Go to the hospital. You have money. Just go to the hospital.
We both know that money is for Ellie. But beyond that, I need to know that she's gonna have a decent life where she cares about people and other people care about her, and she's gonna be okay.
I need to go.
Mary, she doesn't
have to go.
have anyone else. I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life.
We both played our parts. I raised her, and you're giving her the money.
The film is an unflinching look at pain, self-loathing, and the desperate human need for connection. It's a story about a man who, despite his immense flaws and self-destructive behaviour, is a human being still worthy of empathy. Fraser's performance was so powerful because he wasn't just acting. He was embodying the kind of deep internal pain that he himself had experienced. His comeback was a moment of genuine human connection and empathy. A powerful testament that men can be victims and that their struggles are valid. But then there's Pedro Pascal, a man who in interviews and through his social media has been open about his struggles with anxiety and mental health. His openness has not been met with compassion or celebration. Instead, it's been met with memes and ridicule and widespread mockery of his emotions. It's as if a man is only allowed to be vulnerable when it's on a movie screen, or when it's a story that fits a specific approved narrative of victimhood. The moment a man's vulnerability doesn't fit the approved mold, when it's unscripted and raw, it becomes the target of ridicule and mockery. The double standard is brutal. It feels like a sick joke that you're only allowed to be human if it's on the media's terms. And the prime example of apathetic and ultimately hypocritical world we live in today. It shows that our society is not truly ready to accept men's emotional struggles, preferring to laugh at them rather than engage with them on a meaningful level. And that same hypocrisy leaks into dating culture. In 2025, trying to form genuine connections can feel like walking through a minefield. You have this sincere desire to talk to someone, to connect, but you're met with walls. Either you get rejected because of someone's sexuality, or you get accused of objectifying them. It's a lose-lose situation. And I think that's because we've lost the ability to see nuance in people. The experience of having your most vulnerable and sincere desire misinterpreted is a truly lonely feeling. The fear of being a creep is a very real and present danger. And it's a fear that has been weaponized against men, turning honest interactions into potential social landmines. The irony is that the very people who complain about the lack of connection are often the same ones who put up these walls, creating a vicious cycle of fear and distrust. This feeling of being misunderstood for just existing is absolutely everywhere. I've seen ciphering videos that are darkly funny but brutally true.
Oh my god, somebody help!
Oh my god.
Does anybody know CPR?
I know CPR.
Oh, thank god, he's not responding. I think he needs mouth to mouth. Please hurry.
Oh, that is just rich.
Jesus Christ.
I have a boyfriend. You expect me to put my lips on another man like that? You don't think I've seen The Sandlot?
Man, he doesn't have much time.
He's not gonna pull his squints, okay? Help him.
I'm not gonna cheat on my boyfriend to save another man's life.
What are you talking about? I don't understand.
Not that kind of a girl.
Hey, sorry.
It's an extreme example, sure, but it perfectly illustrates the fear that men have of being labelled a creep for simply talking to a woman, and the defensive, apathetic walls that have gone up because of it. It's a tragic breakdown of communication, where even a desperate plea for help is filtered through a lens of fear and suspicion. This isn't about dating, it's about the erosion of basic human trust. A man is no longer seen as a potential ally or a fellow human being in need, but as a potential threat. And that's a truly sad and dangerous place for a society to be. This is a bigger problem. The portrayal of men in modern society is completely messed up. We are told that men can't be victims. We are told that if a man is a victim, then it's his own fault. You see shows like Law and Order SVU, where if a man is a victim of abuse, they always try and find a reason why he deserved it or why he provoked it. This refusal to acknowledge that men can be victims too is a sickness in our society, and it leads to a total lack of empathy. It's a sickness that we need to get rid of because it's not a healthy way to live in a modern society. It shows an unwillingness to accept a complex truth in favour for a simple but ultimately damaging narrative. The show often seems to reinforce the idea that a man's pain is a sign of weakness, and that his suffering is just a punishment for some hidden male failing. This is not empathy. It is a fundamental dehumanization of men. The show's tendency to focus on the male victim's flaws, even when they have nothing to do with the crime, is a prime example of dehumanization. This message-first mentality has spread into everything, even history. I saw a video from The Critical Drinker, and it perfectly encapsulated what's wrong with everything. He talked about The Woman King, a film that depicts a brutal slave-trading African kingdom as the good guys, fighting against the evil Europeans.
Well, the main criticism centres around the recasting of Cleopatra. Sorry, reimagining, because I guess that's what we call it now when we blatantly try to rewrite verified historical facts to suit our own 21st century narrative and gaslight anyone who calls us out on our bullshit as hateful bigots. Kind of like how the Woman King tried to reimagine a brutal expansionist military dictatorship who massacred entire communities and happily sold their own people into slavery as a progressive and enlightened society to be cherished and protected, and a unit of female warriors who once lost more than 500 troops to kill a grand total of 6 French soldiers as an elite fighting force that would make the Avengers shit themselves in absolute terror.
I think I can smell shite.
That's not a creative tweak, that's a complete bastardization of history. It's a portrayal of the author's intentions, because in this case, the author is history itself. The filmmakers made a choice to change the history of the Dahomey Kingdom to fit a modern narrative. They took a society that was directly responsible for a horrific slave trade and turned them into heroes. All while conveniently ignoring the fact that they sold other Africans into slavery. This isn't just creative license, it's a manipulation of historical fact to fit a message. It shows a fundamental lack of respect for the audience and the people who actually lived and suffered during that time. It's a prime example of the message first, character second approach that's killing modern cinema. The film's creators made a deliberate choice to prioritize a political message over historical accuracy, and in doing so, they created a lie. This is the same frustration I have with New Horrible Histories. The original show taught me everything I know about history, with catchy songs like
Divorced, beheaded and died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. I'm Henry VIII, I had 6 sorry wives. Some might say I ruined their lives.
It was a brilliant show that made learning fun by being historically accurate and entertaining, but now they're changing history to fit a narrative. They're race-swapping historical figures. It's no longer about history, it's about a modern agenda. This is why I get so frustrated when I see things, because I grew up with a love of history, and it's a love of history that's been taken away from me. The show has been corrupted by the same forces that are corrupting our films, stripping away the very thing that made them so valuable in the first place, the truth. It's a betrayal of the show's original mission, which was to make history accessible and fun, not turn it into a tool for political messaging. This frustration with modern films and TV shows extends to how political and social commentary is handled. The ironic part is, if I speak out about my own opinions and my own critiques on modern films, I get labelled a creep, a misogynist, a homophobe, or whatever. This is ironic because I actually despise and hate Andrew Tate. I'm not a follower of his or anyone who promotes that kind of toxicity. My views on things like good storytelling and genuine equality are completely separate from that. But in today's society, if you have any critiques, you are immediately put into a box with people you absolutely despise. It's an easy way for people to dismiss your points without actually engaging with them. It's a silencing tactic that allows them to win without ever having to make a compelling point. It's an intellectual cowardice that's rampant in our society, and it's a direct result of this message first mentality that has destroyed our ability to engage in a nuanced discussion. But there are stories that get it right. These are films that make you think, that don't give you a clear good guy or clear bad guy. They are stories that are so authentic, so well told, that they stick with you long after the credits roll. Let's start with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The most important thing about this film is that the main character, McMurphy, chose to go to a mental institution instead of going to prison. He thought he'd have an easy ride. But the film is not about a simple villain, it's about a clash of ideologies and a flawed system. Nurse Ratched isn't a sadistic monster, she's a product of the time's brutal and limited understanding of mental health. She saw her job as maintaining order and curing the patients, even if it meant taking away their humanity. She believed she was doing what was right, based on the practices of the time. The electroshock therapy she subjects McMurphy to isn't an act of pure evil to her, but a cure for his disruptive and rebellious behaviour. The ultimate betrayal of McMurphy's humanity is not a personal vendetta. It's a cold, calculated act of a system that would rather destroy a person's soul than admit it couldn't fix them. McMurphy was not truly mentally ill. He was a sane man in an insane place, and his presence exposed the hypocrisy of the system. The electroshock therapy was a way for the higher-ups to keep him quiet, to make an example of him, to maintain the illusion of control.
Mr. McMurphy?
Huh?
Please follow me.
You may, Chief. Are you ready? Here we go.
This is the part that resonates so deeply with me about modern society. We see people in positions of power who, when confronted with truth they don't like, would rather cure the person speaking that truth than confront the flawed system they represent. It's a warning about what happens when conformity is valued above individuality. Then you have The Green Mile. This film is a masterpiece in moral ambiguity and empathy. The genius of this film is that it makes you feel sorry for the prisoners, even though you know they've done horrible, heinous things. You have John Coffey, a man who's clearly not from this world, who has a power to heal and feel the pain of others, and yet he's a committed man on death row for a crime he didn't commit. But you also have the other prisoners, like Dell, the guy with the mouse, and you feel for them because of the way they're treated by the horrible guards. The film doesn't ask you to simply hate the evil guards and cheer for the good ones. The execution of Dell is a perfect example of this. The guards, in their cruelty and their apathy, are just as monstrous as the people who they're executing. It makes you ask who the real monsters are. The guards who are just doing their job? The people who sentenced an innocent man to death? Or the supernatural evil that put him there in the first place? The dry sponge scene is one of the most brutal and important moments in the film. Percy Wetmore, in a malicious act, deliberately fails to soak the sponge used for electrocution, causing Dell to burn alive in a prolonged and agonizing death.
Edouard Delacroix, electricity shall now be passed through your body until you are dead, in accordance with state law. God have mercy on your soul. Roll on two.
Sponge is dry.
Why don't you shut it down? He's still alive. You want me to shut down while he's still alive? You what, you son of a bitch!
It's an act that shows the true inhumanity of the system and the people who run it. The film forces you to confront the idea that the people who are charged with carrying out justice can be just as, if not more, evil than the people they are executing. It's a powerful and disturbing scene that stays with you long after the credits roll. And it's a perfect example of a story that prioritizes nuance over a simple good versus evil narrative. And then there's A Clockwork Orange. This film is a twisted and violent look at human nature, and it's another perfect example of moral ambiguity. You have Alex, a sadistic and violent sociopath who is, by all accounts, a terrible person. But when the government subjects him to a brutal form of aversion therapy, to cure him, the film forces you to question who the real villain is. Is it Alex, who enjoys violence, or is it the government, which strips away a person's free will and humanity in the name of a social order? The therapy Alex goes through is a horrific violation of his personhood. It's a forced conformity that takes away his ability to choose, to be a human being. The film makes the point that a person without the ability to choose evil is not a good person at all. They are just a machine, a cog in a system. The film is a warning about what happens when society tries to force people to conform to its ideals. And it sounds more like what modern society sounds like now. It's a disturbing but necessary explanation of the nature of good and evil. And it leaves the audience with an uncomfortable question. Is a world of compliant but soulless individuals a truly better world? And it's the same with a masterpiece like Star Wars. The original films are a brilliant look at moral ambiguity and the danger of extremism. You have the Jedi and the Sith, both of whom are presented as opposing forces of good and evil. But if you look at it with a critical eye, you can see they are both, in their own ways, extremes. The Jedi with their strict adherence to rules and their refusal to acknowledge emotion, and the Sith with their complete embrace of passion and hatred, are two sides of the same coin. The Jedi's rigid code of conduct and their suppression of all emotion, including love, is an extreme form of control that ultimately leads to their downfall. The Sith's complete surrender to passion and hatred leads to a world of chaos and suffering. Neither of them represents a balanced, healthy way of living. It's a story that forces you to question what it means to be good and what it means to be evil. It teaches us that true balance lies in the middle, in acceptance of both light and dark within oneself. The prequels even showed how the Jedi's own arrogance and dogmatic ways led directly to the rise of the Empire. It's a story about the dangers of a society that have lost its nuance and has chosen to live in a world of absolutes. But as I said, the rot goes deeper than that. Look at the people who are telling these stories. I saw a clip of Christopher Reeve the other day, and he perfectly nailed it.
The old days of the studio system, it was run by people who actually liked movies.
That's right.
They were self-made men. They came up with very little education, but they loved movies and they loved artists, and they wanted to bring with them the great artists. There was this great exodus from Germany in the 30s of, you know, and then there was Faulkner writing there, and there was Fitzgerald writing, and the word meant something. Literature meant something. In fact, Broadway, I mean, was really kind of the Class A world, and film was a poor relation. Actors went off to do a movie, well, which we didn't really talk about. Then I go back on Broadway and do my Macbeth or whatever. And I think what we have now is we've got the studios are run by guys with business degrees who are really only we're pre-selling territories. Right. And that's how you get a movie. I've talked about this before, but you get a really interesting, original piece of modern literature like Bonfire of the Vanities, which they cast by pre-selling to an imagined audience. Well, Bruce Willis brings in this audience, Tom Hanks brings in this audience, Morgan Freeman brings in this audience, and they don't care anymore whether they're serving the author's intentions. And I think that really does a disservice to the audience, who really doesn't care so much about stars. They want to see a story well told for their $7.
They don't care about the author's intentions. They care about the bottom line. And that to me is the rot that's set in. It's a sickness that's replaced creativity with a cold, calculated marketing. The modern blockbuster is not a work of art, but a product designed to appeal to the lowest common denominator, to offend no one, and to make as much money as humanly possible. This is why we have so many sequels, reboots, and prequels that lack any